A solid ending to a wonderful game. Like me. I'm MTK, and today we are reviewing Remnant 2 The Dark Horizon DLC. This is the third DLC and final chapter in the Remnant 2 saga. And to put it plainly, if you like Remnant 2, you're probably going to like this DLC. It's more of what you know and love. Now, it's not going to blow your socks off or anything, but it is decent enough that I think the majority of Remnant fans will enjoy it. So let's go through some of the high points and break down the low points. So let's start first by talking about the story. Now, in order to avoid spoilers, I'm not going to go into much detail here, but the story honestly is kind of shallow. It's not the best one that they've ever done. It's not necessarily going to stand out in any way in particular, but gameplay and combat is the main draw in the Remnant series anyway, so it shouldn't be much of a surprise. I just wish they had ended it on a little bit higher note story wise, but I'll say that the story is decent, just don't expect too much. Now let's talk about the size and exploration in this DLC. The new area is actually pretty large, especially for a DLC. There's a lot of different places you can go, tons of secret places to explore, and new gear to find, and all kinds of nooks and crannies to weave your way into. There's a bunch of verticality they added too with the new glider system, which is a pretty cool addition. It really adds another element to the exploration, being able to glide from place to place, up and down. I thought it made it feel a lot bigger than it actually is because although it looks big, and it technically is, as far as actual explorable areas, it's actually not as big as it looks because a lot of the map is unexplorable muck, mire, acid, blub stuff. So although there's a lot of surface area, you really can't go to a lot of that. So you're kind of confined to the new areas that they've built for you to be able to go to, but it's not the entirety of the whole map. Definitely not on par with something like Shadow of the Erd Tree, which was just massive across the board. As far as the new gear goes, there is quite a bit of it, and I did enjoy messing around with some of it. I didn't find it all, but there is a bunch that you can find. Although I will say that I was super excited for the Genesis bow once I found out about it, because I used the Royal Hunting bow as my main weapon. So I was really looking forward to being able to use another bow, and it really kind of disappointed me. It just didn't have the same kind of damage output, and I found it kind of lackluster. Now, the new class is pretty cool. It's called the Warden, and although I did have fun messing around with it, it's not good enough to make me want to change my build permanently. I currently run a mixture of the Challenger and the Invoker, and to me, that one just can't be beat, at least so far. And this new class just really didn't change my mind on that. So, to put it shortly, the gear is worth searching for and messing around with, but it's not necessarily going to change your life or anything. It's just a nice change. So, let's talk about the new bosses real quick. For the most part, they're almost all milk toast. Nothing really special about them. That is until you get to the final boss of the DLC, and that one is one of the best bosses in the Remnant series, in my opinion, and it is a fairly steep difficulty spike as well. But aside from that one, there's not much excitement, but I will say that that last boss definitely makes them all worth it. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, you might be enjoying yourself, and if that's the case, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Lastly, let's talk about the new Boss Rush game mode. The Boss Rush mode is a lot of fun, actually. It's a really nice addition to the gameplay loop. It adds a lot of replayability and something fresh to sink your teeth into. The buff system is pretty similar to God of War's roguelike mode, so if you've played that, it'll be very familiar to you. And it can be very challenging. The harder difficulties in the boss rush mode, especially the longer runs, will definitely make you sweat. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for a challenge, this is definitely the place to go. However, you can adjust the difficulty down to fit your liking. But one other thing I want to point out about the boss rush mode is that I recommend that you finish the story before you try out the boss rush mode. I made the mistake of jumping into the boss rush mode before I finished the main story, and I actually ended up fighting the main boss before I actually made it to the main boss. So to avoid spoilers, you might want to finish the actual game first. So in conclusion, I'm going to give this DLC a should consider, especially for hardcore Remnant fans. It's going to give you more of what you know and love. It's not going to deviate from the winning formula, and there's enough new stuff to keep it interesting. Is it going to blow your mind? No, but it will satisfy the Remnant itch until we hear something on the series' next entry.